making them focus on some of these things that they shouldn't?
That's a good question. I think you'll probably hear me say this over and over again, but it's bio-individual. It depends on the person. But, just as a kind of a broad example, someone who, a woman who is coming to me and is exhausted all the time and maybe is wanting to lose weight and can't lose weight, and she's pooping like 3 times a week instead of a couple times a day, right? So there's constipation present, there's bloating present, there's hormonal issues present, and she's been doing keto or intermittent fasting for a year or 2 or a couple months, whatever the case may be. When I'm looking at what she's experiencing, her symptoms, compared to how she's nourishing or essentially not nourishing herself, that tells me a lot. So one of the other things I use with my clients is a food and mood journal. So I have them write down 3 to 4 days of what they ate. And I mean, this is detailed. Like, it's a lot. So they're writing down what they ate, what time they ate it, what they drank, how they felt, did they move, did they have digestive symptoms, did they go to the bathroom? Like, we're tracking all of this stuff. So I'm looking at that in addition to the other assessments that I talked about earlier. And, if I get a woman who comes to me with those symptoms that I just mentioned, and I look at her food and mood journal, and she's not eating any food until 12 o'clock in the afternoon, so she's fasting, and then she eats lunch, and then her day gets really busy, and she doesn't eat anything but a coffee until dinner time, and then at dinner, she has her food, and she's trying to feed her kids, and she has her dinner, and then after dinner, she is starving, and is like, I have sweet cravings all night long, I just want to eat everything in the house, and I binge on this, and I binge on that, and I can't stop eating. That's telling me that she's not getting enough nutrition throughout her day, and it's stressing her body out. Those symptoms are telling me that her body is stressed out, her blood sugar is probably not well balanced, she's fitting in a lot of food in a short period of time, and her digestion's probably not handling it well. And we'd also be looking at the quality of the food she's eating. Is it nourishing her? Is it providing her body with the vitamins and minerals and fats and proteins and carbohydrates that she actually needs to function on a daily basis with that high of a stress level?
And so, you want to talk about putting the digestive system into overdrive. I mean, you're talking about having a dinner where you're trying to feed other people, but then you're also trying to rush and eat yourself, and then you're trying to digest that, and then all these different cravings kick in, and then you're trying to fit a bunch of calories into a short period of time. So you want to talk about causing digestive problems. It seems like a scenario like that, which sounds like it might be pretty common at least from my experience, because I know I've heard similar stories over and over again from men and women where they hardly eat anything until home, when they get home in the evening, and they eat, and then they eat again, and then they get a midnight snack or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And then we're not only looking at the digestive implications, but we're looking at the blood sugar implications of that. Are you in a state where you can metabolically handle fasting for that long a period of time? Can your body's ability to pull glucose from your stores to provide energy for yourself, is that functioning well enough for you to not eat for 6 hours, for you to not eat for 8, 12, 14 hours? If not, then we're looking at spikes and drops in blood sugar, and we're looking at spikes in insulin, which long term, if that's a pattern, we're looking at things like prediabetes and insulin resistance. So, which
we know already, that's a whole nother host of issues on its own.
Yeah, I'm not saying like things like keto cause insulin resistance. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying
right.
We have to look at the person as a whole, and is this working for them? Do they have the capacity to function this way? Some people may have really good blood sugar regulation, and they may be really good with intermittent fasting, and they don't have a whole lot of stress, and it works really well for them. Fine. I'm like that's fine. But I will say that the vast majority of people who come to me are not set up that way, and aren't going to thrive on something like an intermittent fasting or a keto diet or any other kind of popular diet that may be restricting calories or restricting nutrition.
So what you're saying is that in the right circumstances, each and every diet is appropriate. it just needs to be matched to the right person and how, like, where they are, where their body is.
Yeah, possibly. So I think part of what becomes an issue is that some of these things get co-opted by the diet industry, right? So just an example currently is keto, right?
That's the big one, yeah.
It's the fad right now. It's on every label. You know, you pick up olive oil and it's labeled keto. You pick up eggs and they're labeled keto. Like, it's the new gluten-free. When everything got labeled gluten-free, that's what...
Right. I remember those days, yeah.
I do too. I went gluten-free a very long time ago for health reasons, and that was really funny to me because when I went gluten-free, nothing was labeled gluten-free. There wasn't gluten-free anything.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah. It was not easy. And then it started, and I was
wasn't
like...
a buzzword until after.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, why are they labeling eggs gluten-free? This doesn't make sense.
Sales! Sales!
Yeah. So anyway, back to your question. Part of... So the co-opting of things like maybe paleo by the diet industry, right?
Yep.
To me can be a little problematic because I, in my practice, will use something like an autoimmune paleo protocol for someone who's experiencing an autoimmune issue, an autoimmune disease, to help them figure out what foods are exacerbating their symptoms, what foods are problematic for them. So we're using a paleo template to do that. But the goal is not, with that template, to lose weight. The goal is not to stay off of the foods that we may remove for forever, or with any elimination diet that I use. It's always therapeutic, meaning those foods that are removed are meant to be brought back in. So part of what happens when these things get turned into fad diets is this goes on for a long period of time. So people are taking out entire food groups and losing big components of nutrition for long periods of time because they're not eating carbs, because they're not eating grains, because they're not eating beans, because they're not eating this or that. And when I say a properly prepared nutrient-dense diet, that's part of what I mean is we always want to be working to make your diet as diverse and as nutrient-dense as possible. So to me, that doesn't mean taking things out. It means what can we put in.
Yeah.
Even for people who are using a protocol like an autoimmune protocol, if we take things out for a period of time, we always want to be working to put them back in. If they work for that person.
So after maybe symptoms or the hopefully the cause has calmed down for a period of time, and then you start systematically reintroducing food groups or certain foods back in to try to make it, like you said, as diverse as possible, but then also still keep it as nourishing or nutrient rich as possible as well.
Yeah. Another example would be, I actually have a lot of my clients go gluten-free for a period of time. Some maybe they stay gluten-free and some maybe they don't. And we work to, if they can tolerate it, if we work to support their digestion and it gets better and they're not experiencing those symptoms anymore and they feel really good, we can put in a really high-quality sourdough bread that's been properly prepared, meaning it's been fermented, so the anti-nutrients in that wheat are broken down and you can digest the vitamins and minerals from that food a lot better. So it's just another example of like...
Right. Yeah. Just one more example. And so it seems like a lot of this comes back to managing stress, managing maybe lifestyles and certain things like that. So what sort of tools do you try to give your clientele to help them remove some of those or at least cope with stress to start to hopefully get their digestive system working optimally so that you can hopefully take care of at least one of the root causes of what might be ailing them?
Yeah, that's another big, I don't just work on food. I work on lifestyle and I work on behavior change. So being a wellness coach in addition to a nutritional therapist and having a background in behavior change is actually a really important part of this process because that behavior change is the overarching theme of what we're trying to do. So
right.
I don't give my clients anything. I help them figure out what works for them. So they're giving themselves the answers. I'm I'm not providing a worksheet on, you know, these are the ways you're going to manage your stress. It's a conversation, and it's okay, what's going on in your life, and what are the boundaries that would sound beneficial to you? What is approachable to you? What would feel good for you? What doesn't feel good for you? What makes you want to rip your hair out of your head every day when you have to do it? Can we change that somehow? Is that something you're willing to look at? And for some people, it is, you know, changing their schedule. It's cutting back on the things they're committed to. It's saying no. And, you know, those can be just as big, if not bigger, than the nutritional pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is actually something, again, we talked about on with the intuitive eating, is learning to set boundaries and saying no sometimes because you're overstressed. And then again, like we've talked about, it can lead to those digestive problems or any other, you know, issues that we might have.
Yeah, I think the stressors are and the behavior change are as big a component as anything else I do in my work. So a lot of the time, I think that's not technically the therapy part, but I think a lot of the time it is a big conversation. And I hope that when my clients end their call with me that, you know, they feel heard and they feel supported and they feel like they have action steps to take for the next couple of weeks until we meet again. That's something that I want them to be able, like small chunks of things that they can do that's going to get them to the next step. So for some people it may be like their job is super duper stressful and we can't change anything about their job. They're not going to quit their job. They can't lessen their hours. They have the job they have, period, end of story. So what do? We incorporate a breathing practice every hour. They set an alarm on their phone and they take 5 deep breaths. Like, you know, things
something
like that.
as simple as that.
Yeah.
At least hopefully
it's
simple.
To start, yeah. Those are the things that we work on.
So you're building different habits. You're working on the behaviors. And this is what we talked about, again, like behavioral or outcome-based goals versus behavioral-based goals, things like that. So we're working on, well, with the stress levels and the breathing exercises you talked about, we're trying to work on things that we can control. Because you can't necessarily control how much weight you lose, but you can control taking 5 deep breaths every hour or going for a 15-minute walk, things like that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, Erin, this was very enlightening. I definitely learned a few things, and I appreciate you taking the time. And we've, you know, as we have alluded to throughout this time, you have your own practice that where you coach people with these things. Where can people go to find you and sign up or learn more about you?
Okay, so the name of my business is Empowered Nutritional Therapy, and I would like to say that I'm online. I'm not good at social media, guys. I'm just not. So I do have an Instagram. I'm really not on there very much, but maybe that'll change. I make no promises because I mitigate the stress in my life too, and that can't be something that I add sometimes. So at Empowered Nutritional Therapy is my Instagram handle. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, the easiest way is my email address, which is Erin, ERIN, at Empowered Nutritional Therapy.
Right. Erin Altemus, everyone. So I've been waiting to have her on for a while now, and I'm glad we finally did because I think I got to learn something. I hope you did as well. And hey, if you want to learn more about building fortitude, building strength, or nutrition, go back and listen to the podcast, the earlier episodes. We have hours of content at this point where you can learn a bunch. And if you want to learn more about training with me, check me out and check us out at ontrackhealth.net. We are in Essex Junction, and we have personal training, physical therapy, which, hey, a lot of us probably need that if you got aches and pains, injuries, things like that. And we also have small group training if you like more of a group atmosphere, but you can still get more of a tailored workout than you would in a really big class. So check us out, and you can also feel free to email me, Ren at ontrackhealth.net as well. And folks, we'll see you in the next one. Get strong, live long.